Hello, Scooters. I'm Ray Mouse, and welcome back to the sad story of Emmaline Burns. Let's continue. I want to know who she is. I want to understand her. It must be this feeling, this desperate thirst for hidden knowledge, which encouraged Mum to track down what remains of Zachary Kendall, Maribel Spencer, Rose Bradford, and the rest. So, I've not seen you around, Barrow before. Do you live here? I have lived here for a very long time. But you don't look much older than me. I will be 15 years old this December. At least I should be. So she's 14 too. Oh my god, you guys are 14? Jeez. You say that you've lived here for a long time, but I've never seen you before. You don't go to State Hughes, do you? She shakes her head. So what school do you go to? Ruskin? Sandon? Not Walton, girls. She shakes her head again. Then, are you homeschooled? That would explain what she's doing in this graveyard at 8:20 on a Friday morning wearing such a strange outfit. She might as well have fled from one of those ye old-fashioned photography parlor places. I suppose I was homeschooled, yes. I've never been to a school before. I used to have Ellie, but I might not see her in some time. Ellie? A private tutor? Something like that, yes. She was rather strict. She got so angry when I escaped from her stuffy old history lessons and hid over at the Linton's estate. Apparently, I can't talk still. She smiles a soft, gentle smile, like an old woman with rheumy eyes when recalling a fond memory. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody my age pull a face like that before. Just who is this girl? But you don't have a tutor anymore. There wouldn't be much point anymore. Is she one of those YouTube celebrities then? She looks the part in those clothes. I can imagine her as one of those eccentric, self-proclaimed living dolls who gets thousands of subscribers for eating food on camera. Whoa. So, I'm sorry. This is the first question I should have asked. What's your name? Emily. Emily. I think I can remember that. It's a common enough name. There are two Emilys in my class, Emily Hargraves and Emily Turner. I don't know if this name fits the girl in front of me, though. Emily. Sounds too simple, somehow. And unfinished, too. Like a sentence ending without a full stop. I don't investigate any further, however. I hardly know the girl. What right do I have to ask so many questions? And if it would not be too rude, may I inquire as to what I should call you? Oh, I should have expected this when somebody asks for your name. It's only polite to ask for theirs in return. I don't like answering this question, though. I never have. Just what is my name, anyway? Toma. It says Toma on my birth certificate, but I can't bring myself to believe that. Not when I was fated, before I took my first breath, to be called Amelia. Oh my, do not look so troubled. You will make me feel guilty. I'm sorry. Ha! What a funny girl. You don't need to apologize. She thinks I'm funny, does she? That kind of stings, given how peculiar she looks. You do not need to tell me your name if you do not wish to. We all have our own secrets. Are you sure you don't mind? I'm quite sure. I could just make up a name for you instead. Well, I hope you're not adverse to this suggestion. I rather like giving people nicknames. I would always call Miss Warren Ellis. Her first name was Helena, you see, but she got mad at me because of that, too. This girl has no manners, she would say always. She may have a pretty face, but she behaves like a gutter snipe. Not that I have a button, what she thought. Father was paying her enough, so I thought it was best to make her work for her wages. She may have found me irritating, but I certainly wasn't boring. Well, I suppose it's fine. Then I can think of a name for you. Yes, it doesn't bother me. Anything would be better than Toma. Well, let me see. Emily looks me up and down, one finger against her lower lip. Her smile is teasing, and her eyes flash mischievously like a naughty schoolgirl in Enid Blyton's story. She'll be talking about condensed milk and tinned sardines next. I'm sure of it. Is it true we did not know one another very well, but that's just in the present? I feel that we could become quite close, if given the chance. You remind me so much of her, after all. Can it be a mere coincidence? Her? I thought so from behind too, but when you turned around it became clearer than ever. You have her nose and her eyes, maybe even her forehead too, but it's hard to tell since it's all covered in hair. Well... I look at the ground suddenly awkward, and dig the tip of my school shoe into the earth. I shift my right foot slightly, making a small indentation of the earth. A minute grave for an ant. I don't know if I like being compared to other people. I do that enough myself. Even if I do like one of your friends, I don't think I would want their name. I was hoping for a name of my own. Yes, of course, you don't need to worry about that. I would never be so callous as to dress you in the title of another. I apologize if it seemed that way. She does sound sorry too. Truly sorry. Even if you look like her, you are not her. You couldn't be. It is not possible. A sigh. So let me see. A name for you. A name that belongs to you, and only to you. Ah, I think I have it. From now on, you can be Verity. Verity? Do you like it? It's pretty, much prettier than my real name. Emily smiles, her face flushing, though once more it doesn't really flush, I just imagine that it does, with happiness. I'm so glad. I thought that virtue names might be too anachronistic nowadays. But I truly am fond of them. One of my aunts was called Charity, and my grandmother was Patience. Not that she was particularly patient. She used to hit my father for the smallest misdemeanors when he was a young boy. But that was a long time ago. Her face darkens, but only for a few moments. At any rate, I'm curious. Why are you in a gloomy place like this at such an hour when you should be at school? Wait, whoa. I thought she said she didn't know what school was. Maybe I'm thinking of her. I don't know. Oh, I just like graveyards, I guess. They're relaxing. Relaxing? That is quite the strange thing to say. Why do you think that? I'm not sure. I just like them. They're nice and quiet, and people don't come here much. When they do, they're quiet too. It's a respectful thing to do. Apart from the local boys who tramp about here drunk on Friday nights and piss on the graves and scrawl rude words on them. Oh, that's lovely. I glance at a nearby grave, that of an Elijah or Elisha Pharaoh. Somebody has scrawled across the top of it in black marker pen. God is dead. It seems we have a vacancy of our own living and borrow by. Who would have thought? And I like thinking of stories too. Stories? Yes. Graves are small, and the people buried underneath them are turned into names and dates, nothing more. I think there must be more to these people than that, though. What were their parents like? Did they have any siblings? What was their job? Were they happy? What about all the people if they met, whose lives they may have changed without them realizing? I don't know about all those things. I never will. It's fascinating, but at the same time it's a little sad. I blush, my hands hanging limply at my sides. Did I say too much? I think I might have said too much. This is why I don't talk to people at school other than Hattie. It's because I'm weird, and I know my fellow classmates, Emily Hargraves and Emily Turner included, would just laugh at me. Well, maybe Amelia wouldn't. Amelia's too nice to laugh at anybody. That's what I think, anyway. It probably sounds stupid, though. No, I think you made some good points. I did? Yes. Every person has a story, and there's not enough space on a single tombstone to tell it. The sad truth sorry, I apologize for my horrible reading skills today and yesterday. The sad truth is, there are so many people in this world, it is not possible to remember every single story. As the years go by, they fall by the wayside. The dead must always concede to the whims of the living, even in places like this. Emily looks back at Elijah, or Elisha, Pharaoh's grave, decorated with a biting political commentary, God is dead, and sighs. I like thinking of stories too. In fact, I could tell you a story of my own. I have been turning it over in my head for quite some time, and I would be intrigued to hear your response. I wouldn't mind. Are you quite sure? I don't want to bore you. I can't remember the last time anyone wanted to hear what I had to say. No, I'm quite sure. I would love to. There was nothing else I wanted to do here anyway. Nothing other than wander, trying to avoid thinking about school next Monday and how much trouble I'll be in when it's discovered I've been playing truant. I always run away from my problems. I have done ever since I was a child. I must have inherited that admirable trait from my dad. Well then, if you want to follow me. Emily turns, her face fluttering, and slips through the graveyard like a shadow. I follow her, curious yet cautious, as she leads me behind the church where the trees are thicker and there are even more graves. She draws my attention to a tombstone, just one tombstone of many. It juts out of the grass like a tooth from a glum, slightly crooked. A few cracks run down its dark gray sides, and the top of the grate is fingered with pale yellow lichen. The name engraved into the tombstone is a little difficult to see, and pressed only shallowly, and I have to strain my eyes to read it through the fog. Goodness gracious. I didn't explore the graveyards of Lincolnshire in my youth for nothing, though, and I'm more skilled than the teenagers when it comes to reading inscriptions on gravestones. Here lies the body of Philip Burns, 1807-1851. Also Perdita Burns, wife of the above, 1811-1851. Also Emmaline Burns, their beloved daughter, 1836-1851. May their souls rest in peace. I shift, suddenly uncomfortable. Graveyards don't usually make me uncomfortable, but there's something about this tombstone that strikes a discordant note within me. Something here just isn't right. They all died on the same year. They did indeed, and all by the same day too. I turn away from the grave, the final remnant of the unfortunate Burns family, and bite my lower lip. When I next speak, my voice is barely a whisper, even quieter than the wind. How do you know that? It's just a story. I already told you that. I suppose so, but when Emily said it, it didn't sound like a story. She sounded deadly serious. She looked serious too. Her eyes are narrowed, her lips pursed, her face stark white as though carved from stone. The fog swirled us like a veil. It's even thicker than it was earlier this morning. I can taste the fog at the back of my throat when I inhale and I cough. It tastes cold, rank, and repulsive. The taste of death. Just who is Emily anyway? She doesn't look like any girl I know. She doesn't act like any girl I know. I'm almost tempted to believe, but that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? So should I tell you my story? I must warn you, though, it is rather dour. Then again, given our setting, what kind of story could it be? You should already know how it ends. Emily Burns, born in 1836 to Philip and Perdita Burns, led a charmed life. Her family was rather well-to-do, her grandfather being a lawyer, her father a banker, and she grew up in a large house with 5 bedrooms on the outskirts of Barrow-by. Given her father's profession, he was often away in London on business, but this did not upset Emmeline. She was old enough to understand that her father needed to work so they could afford her nice house, and her fine clothes, and the ribbons she wore in her hair, so she did not complain. Though she did not see her father for months at a time, when he returned home it was always with a present for Emmeline and a kiss on her cheek, and it was as though he had never been away at all. Philip was a kind man, though he may not have been a paragon of manly virtues. He's a runt of the litter. If he were a pig, we would have drowned him in the well, Grandmother Patience always griped. He was not naturally predisposed to the world of financing. He did have a good head on his shoulders, and he was relatively intelligent. Not even Grandmother Patience can deny that. It was through his thick wits, rather than his magnetic charisma, of which he was sorely lacking, that Philip had been able to expand upon the Burns family fortune, as he had invested a good deal of their money into the stock market. Emmeline really did love her father, despite his lack of presence in her life, or maybe because of it. They do say, after all, that absent makes the heart grow fonder. Even when Philip was not at home, Emmeline had a great deal to busy herself with, and she was never bored or lonely. She would help her mother with her embroidery, or exchange idle gossip with the servants, or go to long walks about the countryside, eating blackberries from the hedge rows and snagging her dress on brambles. Emmeline's long-suffering governess, Helena Warren, certainly had her hands full when it came to disciplining a rowdy pupil. Though Emmeline was not unintelligent, she had been born with the disposition of a sea captain or a polar explorer, and she was physically incapable of sitting still for 5 minutes. That is, unless she was with Cornelia Linton. Emmeline and Cornelia had known one another since they were both babies, and they were almost inseparable. They spent most of their waking hours together sitting by the lakeside in Linton's private estate. They would stare out across untroubled waters, which carried along with lily pads, reeds, and fish with shimmering scales, and they would talk, sipping raspberry lemonade. Everyone in Barrowby knew that the lake in the Lintons estate belonged to Cornelia and Emmaline. They had claimed it through the countless hours they had whiled away by those grassy banks, feeding the fish and dipping their bare toes into the water. The lake was their private land, a secret garden everyone knew of, but nobody would intrude upon. And so was that Emmaline and Cornelia spent the summer months together, basking under the sunshine. Oh my god, it's adorable. Alright, Screamers, that's all we have today. I'll see you in the next time in The Sad Story of Emmaline Burns. Goodbye.